Hi, this is Miss Beffer. Just wanted to give you a little background information. I teach special education resource English classes, so most lessons are modified from a general ed classroom point of view, but my resource students are still held responsible for the curriculum. So, this is a lesson on the plot story mountain that my students use and how I can modify and chunk learning for my students. First of all, I draw on students' background knowledge. I might say, students, have you ever thought about times when you told a story? About what happened to you or someone else? Think about how you tell a friend a story and how your friend may want to hear your story. So when you tell a story or hear a story, you always have a beginning, a middle, and an end to your story. Well, when we think of a traditional or usual story in literature and how they are told, we can think of plot, meaning that these stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end as well. Though, when we talk about plot, there are certain elements that we need to focus on. Plot in literature has a certain, we can say, checkpoints that we as readers need to focus on and learn to identify as we read. So, first of all, in a work of literature, plot is a sequence of events. This means that events, or things that happen in a story, happen in a certain order, one after another, like first, then, next, and so on. Think about and picture a mountain, and think about the story that you may be reading. We can compare the story to a mountain. If you were to climb a mountain, the mountain would have a beginning or starting point to climb. The beginning of the story is called exposition. Exposition tells the background information of the story, or what the reader first needs to know about the story. With exposition, we have the setting, the time and place of the story, the characters, who are the people in the story, and conflict. Here we may find that a major conflict or problem arises in the story. This problem or conflict may be with a main character, protagonist, and a person against the main character, antagonist. After the exposition, we come to the rising action. It is during the rising action that suspense builds, in anticipation of what is to happen next, sort of like when you watch a suspenseful movie, like Jason vs. Freddy, and you're on the edge of your seat waiting to see what happens. Then we come to the climax, or middle of the story. The climax is a very important part of the story, because the story comes to a turning point. Something important happens in the story which changes everything. Next, we come to the falling action. Here we find that conflicts that were introduced in the beginning of the story are being resolved, kind of like the final pieces to a puzzle being put together, all heading towards an end to the story. And finally, we are at the bottom of the mountain, the end of the story, the resolution. So this is the plot story mountain. So once again, think about the stories you tell. Do they all have a beginning, a middle, and an end? And with that note, this is the end of my story. And with something to think about, this is Miss Beffer. Make it a great day or not, the choice is yours.